Tuperas, today on Dupe by the River, we got transfer rumors to discuss. Another tough loss on the road against LA this past weekend. And this upcoming week, we got a 2-for-1. We're going to start off with talking about Nashville tonight. We're going to preview that matchup. Don't you dare go anywhere because you do not want to miss this episode of Dupe by the River. And let's get this started, guys.
Dupe by the River
doesn't do anything well. There is not one.
I'm sorry. There was no creativity.
As a Union fan, I take that all day.
Another DP. We need to go get Mario Balotelli. That is right. Welcome, everyone, to Dupe by the River, the show where we follow everything Philadelphia Union. And, of course, we're brought to you by Philly Sports Network. Before we dive into today's episode, we want to welcome everyone into today's edition. If you're watching live on El Parcelo Philly's YouTube channel, welcome on in. If you're watching live on Twitter, thank you so much as well. Like and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, follow us on Twitter. And, of course, you can find us wherever you stream podcasts. Find us under Dupe by the River Podcast. And, ladies and gentlemen, today joining me, my expert in duping, please welcome Justin, second string IR keeper Friedberg. Justin, my man. How was your week, buddy? I missed you, man. We weren't together last week, man, but it's all good, man. How you feeling?
I'm feeling okay. Now, as many who follow me on social media may know, I competed in the Icarus Cup this weekend, and and I got a bit of a souvenir. If you saw my my Instagram story, I had a bit of a collision, and I know it for those who are watching. Don't worry, it's only it was a sprain / contusion is what the urgent care said. So this will be on. I can take it off. Obviously, to shower, to go for my walk and all that, and ice it in aspirin, and that'll be on for about a week and a half or so. But that getting old. I mean, I nearly knew it. Like injuries came with the territory, but man, haven't been 30 for long, and I'm already starting to feel it.
Wow, sporting serotonin feeling the same effects as the Philadelphia Union. What will they do without their starting goalkeeper? We will find out. Will they bring
they got us the summer, so they have plenty of time to for this injury to recover.
No Joe Bendix on serotonin.
Yeah, no, I don't know if that's in the budget. We'll see. I'll ask Paul. We'll see. Let's look in the budget.
Awesome stuff. Well, Justin, let's dive into it today. Speaking of budgets, we'll talk about some transfer rumor or transfer news. One with the former player, one with the current player. Let's start off with BA. Brandon Aronson. We've been following that situation. He's been officially sent on loan. He's going back to the Union, but not Philadelphia, this time Berlin. He's not joining the Dupers, but the Unioners. I think that's what they call it, the Unienders. The Unioners? I think that's what they call themselves?
The Unioners, I believe.
The Unioners. But he's back. He's in the Bundesliga. You know me, I've always said that he should have went there before the Prem. But how do you feel, man? You're a USMNT guy. You're Medford neighbor. How you feeling about this, man?
Yeah, I mean, he joins fellow USMNTer Jordan Pefok.
Best name in USMNT, man.
Going to be playing some Champions League football. I think it's a good move. I was saying for a while that he wasn't going to stay in the championship. People were like, "Oh, he should stay in the championship and get used to it." No, just because Leeds were bad doesn't mean Brendan has to suffer. And I think I've said that he would work in a higher pressing, higher energy system. I had said if he had stayed in the Prem, it would have been maybe like a Brighton, Aston Villa. With Germany, I've been saying Union Berlin was definitely one I mentioned. It was towards the top of the list. Gladbach, Frankfurt are always options. And I mean, the way that they play, he slots in perfectly in that midfield, kind of supporting Max Becker. Was their really main striker, and he was a very high energy, high paced guy. And I think having someone behind him like that can kind of support what the press that they like to do, and also kind of give some rotation in that midfield. I think this is a good move. It's something that you look you look at the way Brendan plays, and I will say I did think the Bundesliga would have been a better move right off the bat than going to the Prem. I think also the allure, unfortunately, the allure of the Premier League, and unfortunately Leeds being the only team that was had the bid for him, kind of was like, if you're a player, it's like with Pulisic and his move to AC Milan being good for his career. The allure of the Prem sometimes, no matter the team, is sometimes just too good to pass up. And there was nothing Brendan really could do with all the injuries they had. I mean, Leeds had no defense, no real striker once Rodrigo got hurt. Bamford couldn't stay healthy. Adams was barely holding it together in that midfield. Once he got hurt, it all went down the window. It was a lot to put on Brendan, and I think it unfairly got, he took a lot of the brunt of the blame when it really was not. I don't think most of it was his fault. And considering the fact that once Marsh got fired, for some reason they decided to keep benching Brendan. And, they bring him on in the 70th minute and keep starting, Nyanto, when Nyanto really wasn't doing all that well. And, we try to take 3 players on at once and not really do much. So it was kind of one of those things where it was an interesting move overall, but I also think it was one where, listen, Brendan, it was smart, and I knew once they went down, a player like him would have a relegation clause, and it was activated, and it's a shame that I think a permanent move might have been better, because I don't fully think that Leeds are going to come up next year or the year after. I mean, I think the way that the championship is, there's a reason. It is probably one of the toughest second divisions behind, I would say, the SPI Bundesliga is definitely a tough one. The championship does play the most amount of games in any of the divisions, which is crazy. And I just think, listen, I'd rather see Brendan. People said Brendan shouldn't be playing Champions League. It's well, why? Give me are you saying that he should? People are more saying that he should slog it on a cold Wednesday night at Sheffield Wednesday than a Champions League matchup against PSG or Real Madrid or even Bayern. I don't understand the mindset that people have, and people, for those who say, oh well, it's kind of a Union fan bias. It's well, kind of, because we know what we saw, and we know what he's proven that he can be a reliable contributor on the national team level. We saw what he did in the Champions League with RB Salzburg, so it's not like he can't do it at that level. I mean, it was just unfortunate that he was on a bad Prem team. That was the surefire nature of it. Leeds barely stayed up the season before, so it wasn't all that shocking when they were in the mix for pretty much the whole season.
How old's Brendan now? 22, 23?
I believe he should be only 23.
It's so hard for a kid that age, with, let's be honest, a shit show that was Leeds, to hold his composure. I mean, he dealt with injuries. He dealt with just a mess in general at Leeds. There's only so much you can expect from a kid at that young age, man. I think what Brennan needed more than anything, Justin, was just consistency. Just a place where he can flourish.
22.
He's only 22, man. And I think that what Union Berlin brings to him is just a place where he can make mistakes. He can continue his growth. There's not going to be a lot of pressure like there is at Leeds and the Premier League in general. I've said it before. After Salzburg, he should have won the Bundesliga. It didn't happen. Like you said, when the Premier League knocks, you answer the door. It's just common sense. And so I think this is the best case scenario. You mentioned the PFOC. I think that familiarity is going to help him as well. And
you have a coach that does like to play young players. Union Berlin last year shocked a lot of people. I mean, for a good chunk of the season, they were in the title race. And what they did was they perfectly balanced some absolutely insanely talented young players with a solid veteran core. And I think you're starting to see that where, especially in the Bundesliga, young players are not like coaches aren't afraid to throw young players out there. And I think Brendan is gonna hit the ground running, and I think the Bundesliga is the perfect pace for him. Like I think you can make a solid career.
I completely agree with you. You ready for that Paxton versus Brendan matchup, man?
That'll be interesting because Frankfurt has a new coach, and so I'm kind of curious if he's gonna Paxton did start to get some more time towards the end of the season, and that was one of the reasons why they didn't let him go to the U20 World Cup was because they, with a short off season and the way the season ended, they needed him there. So that would be interesting. In the Philadelphia area, the Union social media team is already trying to promote the hell out of the Medford Derby.
I like that, the Medford Derby. I like that, man. I like that. All right. Well, from a former player, let's talk about a current player. From Tommy Bogues today, apparently Olivier Mbaizo, right back for the Union, has requested a transfer to the Union, citing that his main concern is just family. I did not know this, but Olivier is married, and he's having issues with bringing his wife over, visa issues. I know that very, very well with my personal family. It is a bitch. It sucks, and we've seen this with former Union players. I think Jameer was the last one kind of dealt with as well with this. So we know this situation very, very well. Just to be honest, like it did come as a little bit of a surprise. Look, Olivier, it's been up and down with him, in and out of the lineup. We know his talents. We know his weaknesses. I'd be intrigued to see what the market is for Olivier out there. I just don't think that summertime will be a time that they will sell him. Especially with the Kai situation. You're lacking depth there. You're seeing what Jim's been doing, putting Nathan over at the left-hand side. So it is a little bit interesting, man. What's your thoughts here on Olivier? What do you see the situation coming to?
I know they said the preference is for that to be a winter move, and I'm hoping and same thing with Kai. I'm hoping they realize, and I think they can understand that. Be asking the team to this kind of came out of nowhere, at least my understanding of it, and asking the Union to replace him at short notice. Obviously Nate can take that spot, but in terms of the offensive ability that he brings, that's something you're going to have to start really scouting for. And I think there is a market. I think he would definitely. I think I would probably say the Eredivisie. If I'm looking at Eredivisie, maybe Serie A, La Liga, something high flying, something where he can really get the most out of his offensive abilities and kind of be more of a modern wing back instead of really doing. He's gotten better at the defensive duties, but I think a league that really emphasizes his ability to get forward is one that would work, and I could see him in Europe. That's not a crazy shout. I just hope that he would allow for the winter to kind of give, and I don't think that would be a crazy ask given how far into the season you are.
Do you just out of curiosity, do you think he fits better in a 3-back set where defensive responsibilities aren't as prevalent as in the 4-back set?
I think he works better as a wingback in a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2. I think that's definitely it's not like the Alexander Arnold where he needs to be centralized to kind of take himself out of the defensive duties. But I think a modern wingback, what the back three has shown with the Union is the outside backs don't have to get back as quickly. Yeah. That you have 3 center backs back there to really kind of make the emphasis on things. So I do think he would be suited better in a back three, in a team that plays more of a back three.
All right. Well, hey, we'll keep an eye out for the situation. Obviously, we're all expecting the Union to make some signings of their own this upcoming summer, so we'll see what happens this past week. MLS transfer market did open up on July 5th. Obviously, we saw Brandon Craig get loaned off to Austin. So from all of us here at PSN at Duke by the River, Brandon, hurry back up to us and get some valuable minutes, man. I already saw him in that after that first win for Austin. He's got that big smile. So it looks good in the green, but we want him back in that blue and gold soon enough, man. Valuable minutes for Mr. Craig. Justin, let's get into the Galaxy matchup here last Saturday. So obviously on some Saturday night football, our Philadelphia Union would take their talents over to Carson, California to face off against the LA Galaxy, not the same LA Galaxy that you grew up with, ladies and gentlemen. But on this night, you had the 4-4-2 Diamond returning, Joe Bendik back in goal. Your back line consisted of Matt Real, Jack Elliott, Jakob Glazes, Olivier Bizo. Your midfield four, Leon Flock in the left, Jose Brujo Martinez at your six, and Ali Bedoya at the right, and Daniel Gazek at the tip of the dime with Ure and Carranza as your two forwards. And unfortunately, this match would start off in the Galaxy's favor. I mean, you had an early, it was like a 3-minute yellow card for Brujo Martinez that kind of set the tone. Tyler Boyd, LA Galaxy kind of just take advantage of transition, and Joe Bendik just allows one that probably should have get saved to go by. It's 1-0 early on. About 20 minutes later, Ure, off of a nice deflection, was able to get that ball on the right-hand side of the net. Jonathan Klinsmann, little Klinsmann couldn't do nothing there. Of course, right before half, unfortunately, Mavinga gets a goal that bounces off Olivier Bizo, gets an own goal, a 2-1 lead for the LA Galaxy heading into the second half. Not the start that the Union wanted. We all know when the Union go into half with our trailing at half, I should say, things don't typically go in their way. Bouge gets the exclamation point in the 76th minute, a banger to the top right corner. And that would do it, as the Philadelphia Union would walk out of Carson, California, with no points again. Back-to-back matches, uncharacteristic here for the Union. Another road loss here in this 3-1. This one is frustrating for sure. A lot of takes after this one for sure as well, Justin. But for you, man, what's your main takeaway from Saturday's loss against the Galaxy?
Andre Blake better come back soon.
That is the main consensus.
Like I've been trying to give Joe Bendik the benefit of the doubt. I genuinely have.
You have.
But my God, that first goal, Danny Hickenbotham said it best. You gotta have that.
You would have stopped that. You would have absolutely stopped that.
That was almost a dribbler. Like, he was not that close. And I saw people say, on the first look, you can go, oh, well, was he screening with all the players in? But then you look at the way that the players were established. Tyler Boyd was pure and shot. Like, that shot had no pace on it. And that was ridiculous. The second one, okay, yeah, it's an own goal. I think Mavinga would have gotten to it had Olivier not gotten in the way.
Yeah, I agree.
But the last one, man, Andre has that. It was a nice shot, don't get me wrong, but it was not far off. Like, you look at Joe Bendik, and at full stretch, he still, misses it just barely. And Andre probably has that a second or two earlier.
You know what sucks, Justin, is the Mits are watching this. Andre Blake with Jamaica is making miraculous goals against Guatemala. In the goal.
That's the part too. And I'm like, and I think I said this to my dad before. I was like, it was one of those. I want Jamaica to do well, but I also want Andre Black back for Saturday. I don't know. It's
all right. Well, okay. So let's just ask the dying question, because you've seen this all throughout Twitter. We got to talk about this right fucking now. Bendik was trash. We're not defending Bendik's play, but here's where I struggle, because Nashville is a tough environment. It's a Wednesday night match. It is tough for me to put in Holden Trent in that situation.
Who apparently has a broken finger, according to Jim Curtin.
Oh, I didn't even.
Apparently that So the quote from Jim Curtin because our pal JT, John the Tanwald at the Inquirer, did write an article basically kind of wondering why Joe Bendick and he doesn't typically write these kind of articles, but writing an article laying out why, the stats of what Joe Bendick has done and maybe why there is a case for Holden Trent to start. And that Jim Curtin said that Holden Trent has a broken finger and that Joe has earned the right to start. And it's like, you sure about that, Jim? What does earn the right to start mean?
You know what he did.
You
know what he did, Justin. He worked his ass off in practice. He was a good leader, and so that's why he deserved to start. That Jim, man.
I know, but usually Jim isn't afraid to pull the trigger on something like this. And I listen, I know you wouldn't do it against Nashville. That would be a massive ask on the road. I would not wish that on a rookie. But if Andre isn't back for Saturday, say Jamaica does beat Mexico, and he isn't back, do you put him in on home against NYCFC with broken finger and all? I don't know. It's just something that I genuinely wonder because, listen, I've said this before, we are absolutely spoiled with Andre Blake. I know that. Andre Blake is an absolute godsend of a goalie and will absolutely go down as a top 5 goalie in MLS history, probably the best goalie in Union history, full stop. But at the same time, most teams don't have this big of a drop-off in ability because, you look at the way Joe Bendick reacts to a save and the way that Andre do. It's their positioning. They both have good positioning, but what Andre does well is obviously with his athleticism, but he reads the game a bit faster. Joe Bendick seems to read the game a bit slower, and I know he has a calming presence on the back line, and I know he has that good rapport, but sometimes too, keepers being good shot stoppers is kind of the crucial thing. You don't ask a lot of your keepers. You don't ask them completely to play out the back. Joe Bendick is decent with his feet. That's never really been a question. But at the end of the day, you want him to make the more basic of saves. You're not asking him to make those 10 bell saves every damn time Andre does. No one's going to do that. And that's kind of why, I think that's kind of why people have looked at Holden Trent and go, well, we've heard a lot about this kid. This kid supposedly has some insane athleticism. We saw in some of the preseason practice stuff. He was making saves that Andre does, and it's oh shit, this kid's got some pretty damn good athleticism. And you look at Joe Bendick and go, I mean, he's a veteran. He brings you that experience. I'll give you that much. But
man's literally got brick for feet.
Yeah, that's the thing. I look at him and go, that reaction time. My God, man. I don't know. It brings up a lot of questions, and I know it's there's not too many goals so far in those games where I blame Joe Bendick. But really, 2 of those 3 in that LA game are ones I think he should have. That's not a comparison to Andre. I genuinely think he should have those. The first more than the third one.
Yeah, and I'll also say this: Bendick's got to be better for sure, but the whole international break has been killing us. The fact that you don't have Blake obviously hurts, but not even having Damian Lowe, man, you've seen what this 3-back set has done to this team. And there was 2 matches where the diamond kind of got a little surge, but it just is just kind of dull now again. I'm just watching, the Galaxy, especially them being able to move the ball through the midfield. Teams don't typically move the ball the way they did against our midfield. And it was just, it sucks, man. You're missing Kai Wagner again. Matt Rial is out of place. How many times he's jogging back to play? That pissed me off beyond means, man. And I think that has a lot to do with it as well. I mean, the attack has looked dull against Atlanta and against the Galaxy. Why you lost both of those matches, but dude, people don't realize the way this team was built. It is a group of 11 men. They work as a unit. And if there's one piece missing or there's a chink in the chain, then they're not going to move as a cohesive unit like you've seen. And that's kind of what you are seeing. And that does lend back to the other case there, Justin. You're seeing a lot of Ali, a lot of Gazik, a lot of Carranza, a lot of Ure. The depth's killing us as well, Justin. It's a lot of things going on right now, and I think we will be fine. But this depth situation to me is a bigger concern more than anything else.
Yeah, and that's why like it's an unfortunate like ask of them going to Nashville for the international break. I mean, having NYCFC at home right before Leagues Cup break is kind of a nice help. But like still, you kind of want to like. I'm not worried because you're going to get players back and injuries are going to like lessen. Like, I think that's the thing. But at the same time, like, it's going to be a solid month or so before you really get back into league results. And despite all this, you're in 6th. You're still 3 points back of like third or fourth with a game in hand. So, like, it's not like you aren't still within earshot. And, like, it was unfortunate timing because Cincinnati dropped points and the Revolution dropped points. So, like, teams that are in front of you that you needed to drop points. So it was kind of like, okay, here's where you should do it. And the first half, up until like stoppage time, it was like, okay, the Union will battle to a 1-1 first half. It wasn't great. But they were getting into the game even before the UA goal. They were getting into the game. They were going down the wings. They were committing Mavinga and the back line and Leerdam to really try to play over the top, and it was looking like they were breaking through. And I think that second goal right before halftime was kind of a backbreaker. And because goals right before halftime are an absolute momentum swinger and an absolute just killer. And it was a shame. But like looking at things, you always got to wonder, like, what if, Andre was there? What if Kai was there? What, as much as I don't like to want, middle in the what ifs because you can just keep going on and on. It's a good question to pose, and one where, unfortunately, this year the timing of the international breaks are not really ideal.
Yeah, man, it is. It is definitely rough. One more point on the Galaxy. Puig belongs in MVP conversations, man. I'm thoroughly impressed by his play, not only against us but against LAFC. And I just walked away from that match, obviously bummed about the loss, but Puig belongs in that MVP conversation, man.
I think there's a potential case for it. I just think you've got to talk about longevity. I think his run of form has only been over the last month or so. And I know that's when MVP cases can be built, but I've also seen it where guys have gotten hot around this time and faded off. Like, that Galaxy back line is still not good. Their offense, like, Puig cannot carry this offense. And I think that, like, this is kind of making it clear that, kind of like with Nashville, like, Nashville still being very heavily reliant on Hani Mukhtar. The LA Galaxy are single-handedly being pulled out of this by the play of Ricky Puig. And I think you got to look at that if you're the Galaxy, because they're still suffering under the transfer ban. And so it's like, okay, well, they're kind of limited in what they can bring in, but how they could improve the back line, because like goalkeeping, like between Bond and Klinsmann, I think you've got some decent goalies. I think that's enough where you don't have to worry about that position. The defense, though, is really like between Preston Judd and Joveljic and Tyler Boyd. Like, you have some decent offense there, and the midfield is solid. But that back line still, like, you have Calvin Leardom playing center back. I don't really think Greg Vanny, that's what he wants to do consistently, but I think he's kind of had to given injuries.
Yeah, it is kind of what it is. All right, so we're gonna move forward here. It's a tough loss now. So what the Union are gonna try to do now, Justin, is they're gonna try to avoid losing their third straight regular season match for the first time since 2018. So we're gonna look into this Nashville matchup. So as always, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna give you guys the eyes from the other side. We have on this week, ladies and gentlemen, Valer Shabila, who's part of the Pharma Soccer podcast down in Nashville, to give us all the insight for Nashville Soccer Club. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the interview with Valer Shabila. Joining us now live on the DOOP by the River guest line, helping us preview this upcoming matchup against Nashville Soccer Club. Please welcome, covering all things Nashville SC through Broadway Sports Media, through Pharma Soccer Podcasts, or just talking Nashville. Please welcome on in our dear friend, Mr. Valer. Valer, my friend, what's going on? How you feeling today?
Good, man. How are you? Thanks for having me.
No, dude, we appreciate you coming on here, man. It's a pleasure having you on, man. We're really excited here in Philadelphia to talk about this Nashville match. Philly's obviously in a little bit of a different place than we anticipated, man, but we're excited to talk about this one, man. So, Blair, before we dive into it, man, just talk a little bit about, your coverage of Nashville SC, kind of what you do as far as the club goes, man.
Yeah, thank you first and foremost, like I said, for having me. I've been covering Nashville since their second year of USL, actually. So a little bit of USL into MLS. The coverage used to be a lot simpler back in the day because I just did one podcast and that was it. And then kind of this year, I have been able to kind of ramp up my coverage a little bit, added some more video elements to it, and added another show, and joined in with Broadway Sports, like you said, Broadway Sports Media. So been able to kind of expand on that a little bit, working with the guys on Broadway. Ben Wright is one of the guys that you can see on Twitter all the time. He's sort of the soccer, guy at Broadway, right? And then we have a few other writers and whatnot.
You look up everyone and hashtag, man. You see a lot of his tweets, so for sure, I know exactly what you're talking about.
But yeah, man, I love it. I love MLS. I love covering the game. I'm from Iraq originally, so
nice, man.
I immigrated to the U.S. When I was 14. About 15 years ago. So it's been an interesting time because when I came here, I wanted soccer, right, and couldn't get it necessarily the same way you'd get it in the Middle East. So I'm glad now we're at the level where you or I or other people can cover this game.
I can connect to that, man. I'm being Colombian American myself, and obviously, soccer growing up hasn't always been easy to find. So it is really awesome to see that we're starting to see more of it. Blair, I mean, obviously your background, like, your culture, soccer is everything. So it makes it easy for you to love it. But, stereotypically, like the South of America, it's college football, it's NASCAR, but soccer is grown very, very well in cities like Nashville, Atlanta, Charlotte, Miami. Why is it that, especially, and just, I want you to speak specifically on Nashville. Why is it working so well in Nashville, man? You guys are selling out crowds. It's a great environment, even in downtown. Why is it working?
Couple of reasons. First, every time I'm asked this question, I feel like I forget a little bit of like the diehard folks. I just want to say, like, there are diehard folks here in Nashville that love soccer, who are from the South, that just love soccer, and they've loved soccer for 10, 20, 30 years and have always had something to do with soccer, right? So I don't want to forget those people, but those people are not the majority. Let's be honest. Those people are the minority, if anything. So the majority of people, it has to do with a bunch of reasons. I would say one of the biggest reasons is that Nashville is it's one of those cities where people are moving into it rather than moving out of it. So you're getting people from everywhere. And there was a study like done before COVID where Nashville had a rate of 100 people per day moving into it.
Wow. And
where those people are moving from are California, New York, Chicago, whatever, all these big cities. They're kind of leaving and coming to Nashville. And what I found out kind of talking to these people is that people, when they move in, they have already decided on an NBA team. They've decided on an NHL team. They've decided on an NFL team. But chances are they haven't decided on a soccer team. And because Nashville doesn't have all these other, Nashville doesn't have NBA, doesn't have MLB, but it is a city that thrives on kind of having a party and throwing a party. This city's built for people to drink. I mean, so when
Bachelor party USA down there, man.
yeah, I mean, it literally is, right? So when you combine them not having a soccer team and a party environment at Geodis Park, you get what you have seen with Nashville, which is these bunch of people who are not from Nashville that can connect to the community in a really easy way. Tickets are cheap, sold out crowd. Soccer is a quick game, man. I go to NFL games and I'm just like,
dude,
it's like
seriously,
a 6-hour commitment. Like it's a lot of time. And
baseball's even worse.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. I mean, where that college football environment you were talking about, that is very similar to what you would feel at an NSC tailgate. Honestly,
awesome.
I wouldn't talk about in-game experience or atmosphere. I don't really know that well of college football, but what I've heard a lot of people say is that the atmosphere of the tailgating and kind of the community getting together for a local cause, soccer always feels more of a club than a franchise, right?
Yeah.
So I think that has to do with it as well.
When you put it that way, it absolutely makes 100% sense. I mean, like here in Philadelphia, because of where we're at in the East Coast, I mean, we're between New York, we're between DC, and we've notoriously been the cheaper of the three majors. And you could put Boston in there as well. So we do get the same thing. Like we're a major metropolitan city, so we get a lot of transplants from all around over the country. And just like you said, they come over with that already, that love of soccer. They may not have that soccer. They're trying to get in MLS. And Philly, it's a cheap ticket. It's a beautiful, beautiful. I mean, you've seen the state, the park as well. So it definitely makes sense. And I think that's why we're growing as a league, especially as the younger demographics come. We tend to gear towards soccer, so it is good for our league, and we'll see the continued growth throughout the country, not just in both of our markets, man.
Actually, that's an important note too. I didn't mention that most people moving to Nashville are millennials, and
yeah, exactly.
They tend to like soccer a little bit more than the older generations.
That is very true. That is very true, man. Well, listen, I want to formally welcome you back into the Eastern Conference. I haven't been able to do that, man. So welcome on back into the East. How's it feel being back into the East, man? We haven't seen you. Well, we saw you last year. We obviously helped you open up the Geodis Park, which was dope. But obviously last time you guys were in the Eastern Conference, we're in that playoffs. That memorable matchup for a lot of Union fans. I know not so much for Nashville, but welcome back, man. How's it feel being back?
It's so much better, like exponentially better. I cannot overstate how important it is for Nashville to stay in the East. They had no business being in the West. It made
no sense, man.
It made no sense. I couldn't travel anywhere without spending like $500 on a ticket.
Oh my God.
It was not great, man. It was not great. Game starting at like 9:30. We had a game scheduled, I think, for 11:30 p.m. one time.
Yeah.
That didn't get played because of COVID, but that was scheduled. It was planned to be scheduled. So not having to deal with that is incredible. And I cannot be I just hope it stays like that, because the just the fact that these game times and these teams that are a lot of fans want to travel to and see these cities just haven't been able to. And then the big thing is the rivalries, man. When you look at Nashville, Cincinnati and Atlanta are the big two for Nashville, and not being able to play a home and away with them is honestly like it took away a little bit from that sort of heat between the two teams.
I completely get that one, man. I mean, I think I speak for most people in the MLS. It didn't make sense for most of us. I feel like Chicago should have gotten the boot, honestly. Like they're closer to the West than anyone else geography wise. And yeah, those times suck, man. Like I hate, like we just played the Galaxy, right? Like we have like a 10:30 kickoff. Like, yeah. It's just rough, man. We got work, we got stuff to do. Like it is absolutely rough, man. But it is, like you said, that's important as well. That Atlanta, Nashville is pretty interesting. You guys, listen, the Nashville and the Cincinnati fan bases, I see you guys going at it on Twitter as well, man. So it's definitely entertaining as an MLS fan for sure, man.
It's one of those that people don't know, but it started off in USL, right? So Cincinnati was the big bad in USL, and then here comes Nashville, a brand new team. They play each other 5 times in the first year, 5 times, and then all 5 ended in draws. And the last one was in the playoffs, which then Cincinnati won in penalties. But Cincinnati had just broken the USL record while Nashville was the 8th seed. So there was a lot of it was the first round of playoffs. There was a lot of animosity between the two fan bases. And then the next year, Cincinnati went to MLS. So that was the year, 2018. And then kind of Nashville followed them to MLS, and some of that rivalry has followed through. The rest, I think, will be built up by the end of this week, actually.
And not too far away from each other, right? Cincy and Nashville?
Yeah, it's about 4.5 hours. Not too bad. I'm actually going to Cincinnati on Saturday for the match, so it's a really easy drive. Yeah,
dude, have some fun out there, man. Are you Skyline chili guy or no?
I've never had it. Just out of spite. But maybe try it sometime.
That's the same reason why I don't have a chopped cheese, because I don't like New York, so I get you.
Yeah, it is what it is, right?
I get you, man. Let's talk about this year's iteration Nashville. Obviously, some changes were made. Kind of talk about what's new with this team. How's this team looking? What are the big offseason changes from last year to this year?
The biggest thing is the formation system change, which kind of goes hand in hand with the new personnel that joined this team. Because when you look at it, Nashville had a fairly successful season in the West, but kind of dropped down at the end of the season last season. So when they came into this season, it kind of followed through with that, and there was something missing at Geodis Park, to be honest with you, to where formerly that they played in Nissan Stadium, right? And at Nissan Stadium, they built this fortress where they literally didn't lose a single home game in all 2021, to where then cut to 2022. And because the first 8 weeks being away from home, then having a congested home schedule, that wasn't translated into Geodis Park. So I'd say all that is that because the start of this season seemed like a continuation of that sort of good enough, but not really great end of 2022. And then something changed. And what that changed was the system and the formation. So Gary Smith goes to a diamond, 4-4-2 diamond formation, and that changes everything for Nashville, to where Nashville becomes they are eight wins at home straight now, which is a really, really good record for Nashville. That's not something they've ever done in their history. And then on the away end is not quite as good. On the road, they're missing a little bit, but regardless, is that diamond formation that really revitalized the team. And it's not mostly Hani Mukhtar didn't change the way he plays for the most part. Is the pieces around him. Is that having the Fafa Pico and the Jacob Schaffelbergs of the world kind of come in and being able to make those runs and help Hani out.
Okay, all right. And that's definitely interesting to know. I kind of want to talk a little bit about the current form for the team. Not the best, 3 losses in the last 4 there, coming off the Chicago loss. What happened in these past couple matches here?
A lot of it had to do with just being away from home and not being able to have the full squad. So you look at somebody like Anibal Godoy, who is an important piece of this team. He's with Panama. He's the captain of the Panamanian national team, playing in the Gold Cup. Jacob Schaffelberg just lost to the U.S. in Cincinnati yesterday, so he should be back. Fafa Pico missed 2 of those matches. He missed the first 2 that you mentioned out of the 4.
Haiti, right? With
Haiti, correct. So he changed from the U.S. to Haiti. Actually, it was an interesting story there. So those are all starting players. And then also in the first match out of the 4, Teal Bunbury was missing, who is again a starting player. He was injured. So a lot of missing pieces and just not being able to have that. Nashville likes to start the games very, very brightly, and they don't they don't push and press the entire match, but that first 5 to 10 minutes, it's all Nashville, and you'll see it at Geodis. It could backfire, of course, but that's how they start matches. And once they didn't get that start in those matches, it kind of died down. Gary tried to switch the first two away matches that they lost against Montreal and Columbus in this 4-game stretch. Gary Smith tried to go back to a back 3 instead of the back 4, and that didn't seem to be working really a whole lot. They got unlucky in certain chances, but nonetheless, at the end, I think they'll look at those 3 away matches specifically and not being able to score a single goal, and be disappointed. But obviously, the home form is like the complete opposite of that.
That's what we're gonna have to see there, and it's interesting. I feel like both of us are having kind of similar issues there. Obviously, we're coming off of back-to-back losses, and missing Andre Blake and Damian Love have been huge losses, and injuries as well to Kai Wagner have really hurt us as well. So it's the grunt of that MLS schedule, right? Like, you're in the middle of it, and you got international play, which I think we can all agree, like, could we please get some international breaks in there, man? And it's just a mixture of everything. It's funny you're saying like the diamond's working for you. Like, diamond's something we've been I mean, you've seen the diamond in 2021. We've been running this diamond since like 2019, and it's not that it's getting stale. I just don't think that with this personnel it works to its best ability. We've seen a lot of success with 3-back set here, so it is interesting to hear kind of similar issues that we're having with Nashville.
So actually, Gary Smith, we just talked to Gary Smith on the presser an hour ago or so, and he mentioned Philly playing with 3 defenders and why they might not be able to do that, considering Glow is out on international duty. And he mentioned that unprompted. So they're doing their homework, of course, there. But kind of, I am interested in that because I think a lot of it has to do with. I don't think Nashville. I have to go back and check. I don't think Nashville has played with against a pure diamond formation since they switched to it. So I'm curious on how that goes. If both teams kind of hold on to their shapes and just say, we'll figure it out, or if there's going to be any tactical changes between Curtin and Smith, because I'm honestly not sure. I've seen Gary change formations on the fly. I've seen him change personnel on the fly. And Curtin is a smart guy. He's a smart manager. And I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of had a tweak or something up his sleeve.
Be interesting because obviously player selection, depth's been an issue for this team as well this year. I mean, Corey Burke and Paxton Anderson leaving have been huge losses there. It'll be interesting because typically when we play like diamond teams, like the Red Bull are typically diamond team. Cincinnati, since Noonan's been there, has been a diamond team bringing that formation over there. Or actually, no, they've been more of a single forward team. But regardless, anytime we do play a diamond team, it's always low scoring. But we've had Joe Bendick in there, and I'm sure Joe Bendick things can go real ugly real quick. So that one's a little bit concerning for sure, my man. But one piece you haven't had at least in the last matchup that I was intrigued by, Hony Mukhtar, obviously out, or he wasn't out. He was in the 18, just didn't start against Chicago. A lot of rumors to get to the Qatar League. Anything you could tell us on that? And any we could probably expect on Wednesday as well.
Yeah, he had a small knock in Chicago, and that's why he didn't start. I'm pretty sure it's all taken care of, and he'll be starting on Wednesday. If that match was at home, for example, the Chicago match, I think Hany would have started. I think Gary was just being extra cautious because away match and travel and all that. So I don't think there's anything to worry about in terms of the injury. I don't think you want me to talk a whole lot about Hany Mukhtar on the field because I think everybody just kind of knows what's going on. The numbers speak for themselves. So I'll let y'all look him up that way. But in terms of the Qatari League links, that all started about 2-3 days ago where a Qatari outlet, El Qas, they announced they reported that a offer has gone to Hany Mukhtar. Now, they didn't report that an offer was gone to Nashville SC. They just said an offer was made to Hany Mukhtar to join one of the clubs in the Qatari League. The interesting thing there is that Nashville SC has him under contract and through 2025. So he can't just like up and sign a contract and go, right? So there needs to be a transfer fee. And then today a report came in from the guy who runs Transfermarkt in North America. I can't remember his name, but he came up. He reported that a transfer fee was also a written proposal was made to Nashville SC. The thing with that is that I don't think there is, and I mean that in the sincerest way to the people who are reporting this, I don't think there's any way in hell Nashville SC is going to let Hany Mukhtar leave this summer, unless it's, I don't know. I mean, it would have to be MLS record signing fee. I think that would be the only way Nashville SC would part with Hany Mukhtar, and even then, I think they would have time to think about it. It is very hard to find players who are effective. It's not just about bringing in big name signings because, look at Toronto, look at Miami the first couple of years, right? And it's just it's a big joke, right? So I don't think there is much chance for Hany to be sold this summer. and I don't think there's much chance for him to be sold at all by Nashville SC. The only thing I would say is that the money that the Qatari League has is tenfold what MLS is ever able to offer a player, in all honesty. So if they come in and they really want to push for a signing like that, they're able to probably persuade at least a player. Hani Mukhtar is on a $3 million contract per year, which in regular people terms, that's a lot of money. In MLS terms, that's not even top 10. So you're looking at someone who is hands down the best player in the league for almost 3 seasons running, unable to be paid top 10 salary. And that's with his re-signing, with his increase in pay. So there might be something there that they can persuade him, but he's very committed to Nashville. He just opened an academy in Nashville, the Hani Mukhtar Academy. He just married a girl from Huntsville, Alabama. So, he's very committed to this city. He got married, and this is not a joke. He got married at Geodis Park on the pitch.
Oh my God. He's a full Southern boy, man. He's Tennessee as they come.
So I think it's going to take a lot to get Hani Mukhtar out of Nashville. Okay. And I mean, at the end of the day, I think he feels like he has still work to do here. 28 years old. I think he's sticking around for a minute. I don't think there's much chance to lure him to the Qatari League.
It is interesting because it's like something like in world football, soccer, whatever you want to call it, that we haven't really experienced, because obviously in Europe, like you're seeing like all these players going to Saudi Arabia for ridiculous fees. My MLS outbid with I think it was Saudi Arabia as well for Messi as well. So it is something we haven't seen, right? Because we haven't really had that region compete for some of the big players. And I got the Qatari League looking at one of our best players in this league. It is certainly interesting, man. And I know Nashville definitely doesn't want to see him go, but it's funny. I feel like the similarities with our club, we've obviously have built something really good that's duplicatable. But there are instances where we feel like you saw last year in the MLS Cup, when LAFC pulls out Gareth Bale off the bench, you can't really compete with that, right?
Yeah.
So it is definitely tough. The one we say we love what we built, but imagine if we were spend a little bit more. What could we really do here? What could we be really cooking with? So it is something that some of these these fan bases, unfortunately, we keep asking the question, what if there, man?
I agree with you in that assessment between Nashville and Philly. Nashville has been known for this money ball thing because of Mike Jacobs, the general manager, who came from Sporting Kansas City, another team that just recently started really spending a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
But there is a clear idea in MLS that you can be successful, or at least successful enough, if you're smart, rather than just spending the money. And then, you take that and you look at the top 5 teams in terms of spend and how terrible they are this season. Well, not all of them, but the top 2 at the very least, like the Galaxy and Toronto and Miami. And then you kind of start thinking about all this, right? And it's like, okay, well, spending doesn't necessarily equal that, but you are 100% right in that spending at a TAM level, which is somehow how Gareth Bale was here, but we're not going to talk about that. I know Ernst Tanner had some words about that might have got him in some trouble. So I think my sort of way of looking at it is that I don't mind the salary cap. I don't mind teams being smart about the signings. What bothers me the most is the restrictions that MLS puts on the way to spend your money. I don't understand why certain players have to be at this level and certain players have to be at this level. Toronto spends 85% of their salary on 2 players, and that's not good either. That's a lot of spend for, imagine if they can just spread it out a little bit more evenly. So I think my problem is the restrictions that are, here's a TAM player, here's a young DP, here's a U22 initiative, here's a DP. All those restrictions, if you were just to remove them all and say you have X amount to spend, you can keep the DP rule. I like it. I don't mind it. You can say you have 3 players to spend more than that on, but here's your floor, here's your ceiling. Spend within that. Go do it however you want. If teams want to pay 3 players the most money and then everybody else pay them $100K a year, that's on them. If they want to pay if they don't want to have any player over 3-4 million, that's fine. Every player gets like 500K and that's it. So that's kind of my problem here is the way, because you have these owners who came into the league who want to spend money. You have the Atlantis of the world who have been just spending money, LAFC, and Toronto, of course. And these teams are kind of pushing the other teams to spend a little bit more. But there are the old MLS heads, right? So, you have your Dallas ownership group or some of these other older teams that have been there since 96 saying, well, I don't want to do that. So that's kind of where
sign up for this.
Yeah. So that's kind of where that that's why MLS is scared, I think, to make that next jump.
No, I completely agree with you, man. And trying to explain like the like roster construction rules to like casual fans or like European fans, like
bro,
like,
trying to explain it to like MLS diehards is hard. You know what I mean? Like I'm having a conversation with another person who writes for MLS, and we're confused about these. Like that's just life. Like
that's us as MLS fans, man. It is what it is, man. Valère, any injuries, any key pieces that we should be keeping an eye out for? It's gonna be out for Nashville on Wednesday night.
Should be a clear injury record for Nashville. I will say Jacob Schaffelberg just played in Cincinnati for the Canadian men's national team. I'm positive he'll be on the bench. I don't think he'll start the match. Fafa Picault is just coming back from Haiti, like we talked about. Anibal Godoy is still out on international duty, so he will not. Anibal Godoy will not be available. Walker Zimmerman didn't play in Chicago because he had a red card at home against DC, so he should be back fully. The biggest missing piece is just Anibal Godoy because he's with Panama.
Okay. Lineup prediction for Wednesday night. Formation as well.
Yeah, I think Gary will stick to the diamond. It's been working really well, especially at home. Joe Willis has been, honestly, one of the best keepers in MLS. I know that sounds a little biased coming from me, but
no, I agree, man.
For themselves. Nashville have conceded the fewest goals in MLS as well in the entire league. Jack Mayer, who is effectively the best defender in this team, will be paired up with Walker Zimmerman, who has been the best defender in the league, but has been struggling with some injury and international breaks this season. So we haven't seen as much from Walker. But Jack Mayer and Walker in the middle, center backs. Dan Lovitz played every single minute on the left. He'll continue. Shaq Moore on the right. He played almost every single minute on the right. He'll continue to play. Of course, if you know the U.S. national team, he's played a few minutes with them, Shaq Moore. The base of the diamond, this is going to be a very interesting one because Dax McCarty is the only player on this Nashville squad that can play that position. But Dax McCarty is also well into his mid-30s and just played 90 minutes in Chicago. So we'll see how that goes. He played in Chicago all 90 minutes on Saturday. So now coming Wednesday is going to be an interesting thing. I think he still sticks to that position. I think Sean Davis and Alex Muyl take the dual eights or shovelers, whatever you want to call it. I think we'll see Hani Mukhtar at the tip of the diamond with Fafa Picault and Till Bunbury up top. I would almost bet money on that. The only difference, you might see Leal jump in somewhere who can play in like 3 different positions. So I don't even know what to tell you. Yeah.
Man's a beast. I miss Fafa, man. He's one of my favorite former Union players, man. Great dude, swag on 100, man. I love him.
Yeah. He a great rapper, singer.
Yeah.
Got all
many talents.
I was kind of bummed they didn't have him do the media availability today because I was going to ask him about playing for the Union and everything, but maybe after the match if he scores a hat trick or something.
What's funny too is that one of the reasons why we did allow him to go to Dallas was because we were going to the diamond, and he works the best as a winger because he's so dangerous, especially on 1v1. I mean, like, dude, he's fast as crap, man, the gazelle. So we love Fafa, man. We're happy you guys are treating him well, man, and we'll see him on. Hopefully, we'll see him on Wednesday as well, man.
Yeah, he's loved in Nashville, and it's interesting because he plays as a striker, but not really.
He did the same thing here in 2019.
Yeah,
man, awesome. All right, well, before we let you go, can we get a prediction?
I will go 2-1 Nashville.
Okay.
2-1 Nashville. I think Philly gets a goal early on. Nashville comes back.
If that happens, I'm staying the hell away from Twitter, man. Let's put it that way. I'm staying the hell away from Twitter.
Hey, it might not even be my choice to stay away from Twitter. Like that's just like life, you know. Like
Yeah,
you never know. One
Yeah.
day I'm gonna open that app and it's just gonna like my phone's gonna be like, nah, error 404.
Seriously, man. Seriously. Well, man, before we let you go, plug away where people can find your work, man. Podcast, right? Whatever you'd like to plug away, man.
Absolutely, yeah. If you follow me at Valer Shabilla, you're probably wondering how the hell to spell that. Don't worry about it. Just do your best, Valer Shabilla, and I will pop up. There's not many people named like me. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads. Those are the three I'm on right now. If you follow me on Threads, I don't know, man. There's not much going on. But I cover Nashville pretty extensively. I have new content going out on weekly basis, whether it's audio or video stuff. And yeah, just add Valer Shabilla on Facebook. Not Facebook. Don't add me on there. On Instagram and Twitter and sometimes Threads, I guess, as well.
That's right, and that does it. Thank you so much, Valer. Get yourself on Threads. That's a new thing, kids. It's a new thing. Get yourself on Threads now. Justin, after speaking to Valer, I don't feel much more comfortable. It's a tough spot. We just talked about Push. Mukhtar is the real deal. How do you feel heading this matchup, man?
I mean, I don't feel amazing, but I mean, we said this the same. I feel like I said this last year about them going to Nashville, and they were the FEPK away from grabbing all 3 points. So it's going to be an insanely tight game. So, like, I mean, there's not too much confidence, but you know, Jim is gonna just try to shithouse away to at least a point. So at the very least, I know the Union can kind of muck things up if they need to.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you're talking Atlanta, you're talking LA, you're talking Nashville, dude. These are not easy places to play. You're doing
it's not a great run into the League's Cup, but once you get past that, though, like looking at the part of the season afterwards, like your first game back from the League's Cup is home against Dallas, and then you got away at DC, home against Red Bull. Like you've got a decent run in form where you can start to pick up points. So this is kind of the stretches where like every team has a stretch where it's just like you gotta slog through it. And unfortunately, this is the one where the Union have consistently run into a brick wall at 70 miles an hour.
Yeah, man. So hopefully they can get some points here. What do you think the lineup will look like on Wednesday night?
As we said earlier, Joe Bendick probably starts because Holden Trent, according to Jim, has a broken finger. I think your back line, Jim had said that Kai, at the very least, should be on the bench for Nashville. I think realistically, I would rather have him on the bench and not start him and wait till Saturday to start him. So I would say the same back line with the exception of I think Nate Harriel starts. I think for a more defensive purpose, I think you have Nate Harriel starting. I think your midfield, I probably see it being the same, to be honest. I think after that, I think your lineup is mostly the same. Just because that's kind of what you need. The only position flip I could see would maybe be Leon for Jack, but that kind of gets away any of the defensive coverage you have to help Brujo out. So I think realistically your midfield and starting attack are probably the same as it was in LA.
All right, and give us that prediction, Justin.
I don't know how much confidence I have in this, but I'm going to say it's going to be a very ugly 1-1 draw.
I think so too, man. I'm going on that line, man. If we walk out of there with a point, I'll be happy. I'll be happy.
Just shit house your way and run quickly to the first bar you can find on Broadway.
Can we get like a Jack Elliott goal? Like I just want like a weird like the weirdest result. That's what I want, man.
So it's gonna be a Leon screamer from 35 out.
We got the rule one. Now we need the Leon one, man.
Hey, Leon had a nice smacker against Miami. That one was a fucking daisy cutter.
Yeah, man. That is true. That is true. All right, guys. We will be back later this week for this one, and of course the New York City matchup that's coming this upcoming Saturday. But we guys enjoyed tomorrow's match. I have a special announcement for tomorrow's match as well. Stay tuned for that one. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe for more Philly sports. A big thank you to Valer again for giving us the preview of Nashville. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Justin's second string IR keeper Friedberg. Of course, I go by the name of El Parcero Philly, and we're telling you guys to DOOP on.